Hello and welcome back, future scientists. I'm Mr. K with Mississippi Public Broadcasting, and over this unit we've been talking about ecology. And so what I wanted to do today is we're going to take that information and see if we could answer some practice state test questions based on the information we've been talking about. So what we're looking at today, it's not very many of them, it's less than 10. These are some questions that came directly off of biology state tests from the past. This is covering the information that we've been talking about over the past couple of days, and so I wanted to tackle some of these questions with y'all and see if we could see how we're doing on these, right? This is the type of question you're going to get at the end of the year, and so I want to make sure we've seen them a couple of times before y'all get there so that when you get to task day, you know exactly what's going on. So teacher, if y'all could, go ahead, pass this sheet out to everybody. Like I said, it's not even 10 questions. Y'all take 10 or 15 minutes to work on it, and when you're ready for the review, come back to me and I'll do it on the board behind me for everybody.
5, 4, 3, 2.
All right, I'm sure that didn't give y'all any problem, but just in case it did, let's see what we're talking about and go ahead and get started on this. All right, here's the first question. Okay, so let's read over this. It says a 350-acre area in central Mississippi called Old Cove has mature hardwood trees, birds, reptiles, amphibians, and many plant species. Students wrote 3 descriptions related to Old Cove environment. So it's our job, what we want to do is mark one box in each row of the table below to match the correct level of organization represented by each description. All right, so the first description up here, number 1, says all the wild turkeys living in Old Cove. Okay, so that description, all the wild turkeys living in Old Cove, would that be a biome, a community, an organism, or a population? Well, because it's one species, it's the wild turkeys, and they're all living in the same area, Old Cove, that means that this is going to be a population. Okay, so population is what we should mark off for this one. Okay, number 2 says an individual woodland salamander living in Old Cove. So this is just one individual creature. What do we call that? Well, description 2 is going to be an organism, okay? And then number 3 here says all the living things in Old Cove. So animals, plants, bacteria, all of that stuff in Old Cove. What's that called? That is a community. So these should have been the 3 that we marked off for those different descriptions. We're not using biome here at all for this answer. Okay, great job. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, so this says nitrogen is a nutrient that is critical for the survival of living organisms. The diagram represents the nitrogen cycle. And then the question down here says, in recent years, soil tests have shown the presence of increasing amounts of various antibiotics. Antibiotics kill organisms such as bacteria. How would increasing concentration of antibiotics in soil most likely affect the nitrogen cycle? Well, what we really want to know about this is that we're dealing with something called antibiotics, right? And something that's very crucial for the nitrogen cycle are these nitrogen-fixing bacteria, right? They take the nitrogen that is not usable, this is diatomic nitrogen, N2, they take that nitrogen and fix it, right? So the N2 is going to the nitrogen here. It fixes it into this form that we can use a little bit better. So using antibiotics is going to be a bad thing. So let's see if we can find an answer choice that kind of matches that description. Okay, so letter A looks good. Let me read over the other ones. Yeah, so by causing a reduction in nitrogen-fixing reactions. Why would it be causing a reduction in nitrogen-fixing reactions by using antibiotics? Well, if we kill the bacteria that fixes the nitrogen, right, then we're going to drive down the amount of nitrogen-fixing reactions. So letter A is going to be our best answer choice here. Okay, great job. Let's keep it going. All right, this says the graphs show global carbon dioxide emissions and global atmospheric CO2 levels between 1990 and 2010. Which statement best explains the effect of global CO2 emissions on the cycling of CO2 in the atmosphere? Okay, great. So let's read over these and see if we can find a good answer choice. basically it's asking why are we seeing an increase? So we are adding carbon dioxide at a faster rate than it can be removed. So we're adding more than we are taking away. So let's see if we can find something that kind of fits that. So letter A, I think, is good here. It says atmospheric CO2 levels are increasing because CO2 is being removed from the atmosphere slower than it is being released into the atmosphere. Okay, great. So let's move on to the next one then. Thanks for hanging in there with me, y'all. All right, so this says study the two graphs, okay? And then part A says circle a word in each set of options to explain a possible relationship between the data in the two graphs, okay? So this is talking about carbon dioxide over time, and this is length of growing season, okay? So that's kind of what we're using here. And generally, it looks like we have a direct relationship, right? As the CO2 is increasing, the length of the growing season is increasing as well. So the relationship between atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration and the length of the growing season is most likely direct. You see how they both go up in the same way there? Because as atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration increases, the length of the growing season increases as well, right? Anytime you see a graph, you kind of want to do that. If you can find a relationship or a trend, like what I just did, I could see that this was going up and I could see that this one's going up. If you can find those trends, that's something you want to look for kind of quickly, okay? Part B here says, further research indicates that the change in atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration correlates with the observed changes in pollen concentration and the length of the pollen season. Circle a word in each set of options to best explain these observations. Okay, so increases in atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration have likely caused global annual temperatures to rise. We've talked about that in the last video. And plant photosynthesis to increase. Okay? These changes result in greater plant growth and more pollen production. So because it's warmer, that's giving the plants more energy to work with, and that's making them grow better as well. Great. Okay, so let's go on to the next one here. Thanks for hanging in there with me. All right, this says examples of ecological hierarchy are shown in the table below. Okay, so this is kind of like the first question that we got where we're getting a description and we're going to have to figure out what those different levels are. So W is a pride of lions, X is the eagle, snakes, mice, grass, and bushes, plus the rocks in the rivers and the canyon. Y is one alligator in the Florida Everglades, and then Z is the coyotes, black bears, trees, and porcupines that live in a forest. So we need to find which of these answer choices is going to fit that the best. Okay, so a pride of lions, this is going to be a population because a lot of one type of organism is a population. So that means we can get rid of D and B because W they have listed as something else. So those aren't the right answers. Okay, let's go to X, then the next one. So this is the eagle, snakes, mice, grass, and bushes, plus the rocks and rivers in the canyon. So because it's a bunch of living things, so these are all biotic, and then rocks and rivers, those are abiotic, that's going to be the ecosystem. Ecosystem is made up of both biotic and abiotic, so that means C cannot be the answer choice, and that makes A the correct answer choice there. Okay, so let's see if we have any more there. Yeah, I think this is the last one. Thanks for hanging in there with me. All right, so 14 says the diagram models the flow of nitrogen through an ecosystem. Part A says, based on the diagram, which component is a direct product of abiotic and biotic activities in this cycle? So to answer this question, we really need to know what these two terms are, abiotic and biotic. So biotic means something living is doing it, and abiotic means something non-living is doing it. Okay? Well, there's really not a whole lot of non-living things in this picture, right? Because other than the nitrogen itself, all the plants, the decomposers, the rabbit, all of that is living. So what are some non-living things here? Well, I see the lightning here would not be considered a living organism. That is abiotic, and you can see here that it's contributing to these things called nitrates, okay? Now, if we can find something else, a biotic factor that makes nitrates, then that's going to be our answer. And right here you can see that nitrifying bacteria is also making those nitrates. So I think our best answer here is the nitrates. When lightning, which is abiotic, strikes, it will fix some of that bacteria and make nitrates, and then these bacteria, which are living, can do that as well. So letter A is going to be our best answer choice here. All right, and then part B, this says, what is the role of nitrogen-fixing bacteria in this cycle? Okay, so we talked about this one in a good bit of detail last time I saw y'all. The answer here is A. These nitrogen-fixing bacteria, their job is that they take that atmospheric nitrogen and make it available for plants. And they do that by fixing it. So these are going to be the level of questions you're going to get on the state test, and I want to start incorporating them into our lessons so that we're a little bit more familiar with them when y'all get to test day. So thank y'all so much for making it. Your teacher has some other work for you to do, so make sure to give that your best effort, and I hope everybody has a great day.